Hey everybody, this is Harrison and welcome to Harrison's Reviews. Today we're going to go over and review, a spoiler review on Dr. Sleep, the sequel to 1980's The Shining. First off, coming out of this movie, my first thoughts were, holy hell, this movie is batshit crazy. I really enjoyed this movie. It was a great sequel, even though you could see this movie on its own without seeing The Shining, and it was its own story. And if you had saw The Shining and you had saw Dr. Sleep, then you got some bonus extras in there because of the marrying between the two of the films. Now, I know The Shining was an original book adapted to film. Same with Dr. Sleep, original book adapted to film. Now, I know with The Shining there's a lot of differences, and I know Stephen King wasn't happy with the outcome of the film The Shining. So, with this movie, Dr. Sleep, is it a sequel to the book or to the movie? Well, they kind of did both. And I couldn't tell you, again, I didn't read any of the books, but what I had saw seemed seamless. This movie was horrifying. It opened up with a scene of a little girl with her family in 1980, around the same time with little Danny in the hotel with her family camping, and they go off into the woods, or the little girl goes off into the woods, and she sees who our villain is in this movie, played by Rebecca Ferguson. She is Rose the Hat, and she runs around with this group called the Knot. And we'll talk a little bit about those guys here in a second. But basically, they lure her into the woods, and they kill her. Essentially, they kill her. What the Knot is, they're almost like vampires, drug addicts, or alcoholics. And what they live off of, what they thrive off of, which helps them live longer, is the Shining as we know it, but in this film they call it the Mist, I believe. I think it's called the Mist, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but and so anybody who has the Shining, this group of people are seeking them out. Now again, during this took place in the 1980s, during the time Danny was at the hotel. Now, once all that had occurred and it ended, Danny had separated himself from The Shining and tried not to use those powers that he had at all. The movie fast forwards to around 2011, and it depicts Danny, played by Ewan McGregor. It depicts him as like an alcoholic and kind of a vagabond, and he ends up in a town, and he befriends this guy, and his name here is escapes me right now. His name is Cliff Curtis, and his character in the movie is Billy Freeman. And Billy Freeman befriends him and brings him into an AA meeting. And during this time, he gets him a house in this town, and he starts feeling the Shining coming back. Somebody's trying to communicate with him, and there's this chalkboard on the wall, and he's communicating with this person back and forth, and they're just having a little back and forth, and it's real fun. So it stops there once again, and we go to 2019, where now Danny Torrance is like 8 years sober. You know, he's becoming productive in the community, and he's got a little job in the downtown area. And the whole time he's maintained this Shining relationship with this person, and they've been talking through a chalkboard the whole time. Now we get back to the villains, which are, I think it's called True Knot, and they're seeking the Mist is what they need. You know, they seeking these people who shine to live long. And we are only really introduced to about 3 of those characters. There's about 7 or 9 of them, and they're just more like background characters. But you know, they're on the hunt. And what happens is this young girl, and her name is Abra, who's been communicating with Danny Torrance. And Abra is played by Kaylee Curran. I don't know any of her work. I don't know if this is her first work or not. But she starts getting visions, haunting visions of these people executing people in horrible ways, and exhuming, you know, taking the Mist, taking the Shining out of them. And again, it's real reminiscent of, like, these guys are like just drug addicts, like hungry vampires feeding off these people, the way it's depicted. So she then starts to share these visions she's having with Ewan McGregor, saying, hey, look, you know, we have to do something about this. Only we can stop this. So she shows up one day at Danny Torrance's job. And she's this little girl So it's kind of weird, you know. Dan's like, hey, you know, we really shouldn't be meeting in public. But, so she convinces him to kind of take this journey. Hey, you have to go find this dead body. And if you can get this article, if I touch it, I could find this group of people and we can stop them. So they go on their journey. They find this boy. They dig him up. They consume him. They don't consume him. But they dig him up and exhume him. And they find a baseball glove. They bring it back to Abra. She touches it. And she's then able to find out where the True Knot, the bad guys of our film, are. And she's able to get into the head of Rose the Hat and kind of see what she is or what she's doing or what she's about. But because she gets into her head, the villains have to make a decision to leave their leader, Rose the Hat, back when they go hunt for the girl, because when Abra was able to get into her head, she would be able to feel her get close, whatever. We're not 100% sure on that. So, the True Knot, leaving Rose the Hat behind, come and try to get Abra. And the Dan Torrance character and the Billy Freeman character set up a trap for them in the woods. The True Knot shows up, and they pretty much got him where they want him. And, you know, they put up a little fight, but overall, you know, they're sitting up like snipers, and they shoot them all, and they all pass away. And it's pretty cool how they die. You know, they kind of phase in and out of being skeletons, and, you know, they just dissolve and disappear. They kill the whole crew. Except two. I can't remember the one guy's name. He was kind of like the second in command with Rose the Hat. So what happens is the second guy is able to get a hold of Abra while all this is going on and kidnaps Abra, gives her a lot of drugs, and like she's not able to use her shining powers on him. At some point, Ewan is able to enter Abra's body while they're driving and cause the car to get in an accident. So this second-in-command fella from the True Knot, they get in an accident, and he gets killed. So now all we have left is Rose the Hat. In the meantime, while this fight ensued and the rest of the True Knot was being killed, the one girl, she had certain powers that could, the power to influence you, and she had the Billy Freeman character execute himself before she died, and so he killed himself, and so that gets rid of that character that's helping along the lines there. But so Danny Torrance and Abra, they know they're going to be followed by Rose the Hat, and she's very angry that all of her clan was killed. And it's never really said like what the True Knot is, what they are. Were they entities? Have they been human the whole time? How did they start consuming this mist or the shining? They really never get into that. But I forgot to mention the fella from the original Shining. I think his last name or his first name, he went by Scatman, but trying to think of what his name was in this film. I can't remember. Halloran or Holloman? I think I got it written right here. Halloran. Dick Halloran was his name. The boy who, in the original Shining, the man who was talking to Danny in his mind early on. Before Danny got sober, this is still when he was a child, the ghost of Dick Halloran had come to him and showed Danny was still being haunted by these ghosts from the hotel, and he had showed him how to create lockboxes or prisons for these ghosts within his own mind. So he would go and these ghosts would come to him and he'd conquer them however he did it. It really wasn't explained, but he was able to just kind of put these ghosts in a lockbox and keep them away forever. So when Danny and Abra get into the car and start saying where we're going to go, this Rose the Hat is going to follow us. She's going to find us. She's going to kill us both. Danny's like, well, I got a place to go. We're going to go to this hotel. And I knew at that point, I knew what was going to happen at the end of the movie. They get to the hotel. and I'm pretty sure if you guys are pretty keen on big movie fans, you're going to know where this is going. So they get to the hotel, and, she leaves, Danny leaves Abra outside to watch for Rose the Hat to show up. Danny wants to go inside and stir up the ghosts and kind of get the house alive. And while he's doing that, he's going and he's turning on the boilers, the lights are turning on, and we are starting to see some of the tropes we know from The Shining, the hallway, the ballroom, and then he gets to the point where he's in the ballroom, actually, and the bartender, you just see his hands on a glass of liquor just being pushed forward towards him, and you hear a voice, and it definitely sounds like this is Jack Torrance. And I'm like, oh my God, is Jack Nicholson in this film? And they pan up, and it's a look-alike. Now, what a lost opportunity to have had Jack Nicholson come in and reprise this role. I mean, they could have used the de-aging that they have done in so many of the Marvel films on him. Maybe he wasn't up for it. Maybe they didn't pay him enough money. I don't know. I have no insight on why Jack Nicholson not reprise this role. Maybe there's good reason for it. I don't know. But, so he sees, Danny sees his dad as the bartender, and the bartender's, but they're basically having the same back and forth like the bartender and Jack Torrance did in The Shining. So, Rose the Hat shows up, starts walking through the hotel, and there we start to see, we're seeing the blood in the elevators, we're seeing the twin girls, we're seeing the Grady character, all those Shining tropes. So she's now lured into the hotel, and this is some little back and forth fighting ensues, some chasing ensues. There's a part where she actually Danny Torrance is possessed, and he's chasing Abra at some point. So basically the chase ensues, and they're going through the hotel, and all the ghosts start showing up, and they all are consuming Rose the Hat. Every ghost that we see in the original Shining movie is there, basically. And then Abra is no longer, she's freed, and then Danny Torrance goes into the boiler room, and I guess is what happened in the original movie. The boiler room is blown up and the hotel burns down. I guess that happens in the original book. I'm not 100%, but I thought I heard something about this, and that the Jack Torrance never died in the snow outside. I don't know. I'm not 100%. This is what happened in the movie, though. Then so Danny saves the day, saves the girl. Girl gets away. The evil bad guys are gone. Flash forward to the little girl going home. The little girl's father was actually killed by this knot group at some point in the movie when they were hunting her down. She goes home to her mom, and and then we see the ghost in the shower, like from The Shining, room 237, and she goes in there and puts her in a box and puts her away, just like we see Danny Torrance do actually in the very beginning of the movie when this Halloran character shows them how to box him up. Again, I love this movie. This movie was batshit crazy. It's been a long time since I saw. I wouldn't call this a horror movie exactly, but it was horrific. There was some stuff going on with the children being killed by this True Knot group. Definitely a recommended movie. I would never sit here and tell you guys. I would never come home and say, go see this movie if I wasn't 100% on it. If I felt like, I would just say, nah, pass, wait for it to come on cable or something, whatnot. But this was a must-see movie. And if you're a Shining fan, you definitely want to see this movie. And that's it, man. Those are my thoughts. I loved this movie. I couldn't give it any more praise than I already have. Ewan McGregor, Rebecca Ferguson. Great. We're awesome in this movie. So if you want to see some more videos, please, like what you see here, leave some comments, click on the bell, and follow me, please. I'll be back, and we're going to do some more reviews, and we're going to review some old horror films as well. And take it easy and stay scared, guys.